So where I used to live in Ahmedabad, I would have to pass this neighborhood or this community up when I was walking home. So every day from the ashram, from the Gandhi ashram home, I would pass them up, and they were sort of buddies. So I'd say hi and see how things were going. And then one day I was passing by, and a girl named Binky, who was about 14 years old, she's like, Didi, my parents are talking about my marriage. They want to get me married off soon, and I've never gone to school. I really want to learn. And so there's something about that conversation. It wasn't just the conversation, but something in her eyes, like she really wanted sort of more in her life. And I just felt like how, when somebody deserves it, how can we not do something? So she really she really inspired me. So I said, okay, tomorrow we'll start. My name is Anjali, and my passion is coming closer to my own truth. I spent a lot of my time in India working with children off the streets and in a slum community. And basically, we started a school about 7 years ago. And initially the idea was, how to give these children a chance to sort of live the life that they deserve, to really find their greatest strengths and to bring them out. And most importantly, how can they be visible? Because they live off one of the most important, busiest streets in Ahmedabad, and I feel like nobody really sees them. So that was sort of the initial idea, and giving them love, nutrition, and an opportunity to go to school. Mm-hmm. And over time, it's really evolved into sort of the space where kids can come, really be in a safe space, find their creative expression, add value to their community, how they can be leaders within their own community, how they can take care of each other. Schools don't teach children, how to be good human beings, or how to deal with struggles, and when things are hard, how do you sort of come above all of that, and how do you just make the world a better place? The focus in no way is actually literacy education. I believe that it's good if they go to school for two reasons. They get some education, and if they're in school, they're not on the streets. So they're not getting into trouble, and they're not sort of out there in a harsh environment. It's a lot more about life skills, really relevant learning, things that relate to who they are and what they're going to be, and things that make sense in life. We do a variety of things. So Wednesdays we have games. So the kids actually run that day, and the older kids help facilitate games for the younger kids. And there's a lot that happens in play. So it's learning through play. We have a day where we do libraries, and so we have books, and we set up a library, and everyone gets to read and share. And then we have Sundays we do a lot of creative work. So we'll take up a project like either mapping the community, or we'll do something like making a community mural or anything. So it's something that's hands-on and very creative. And then we do also some math and some English, and then we'll do things like we have gratitude journals. So a few days in the week the kids will take it out and they'll write 2 or 3 things, and then one day we'll do some sharing. Sometimes we'll go into the community and do something for somebody. Like if there's an older woman, then some of the kids will go and help her clean up the house, or little things, so that it's also part of how the school works, but it's also part of how they can really connect and maybe go deeper within themselves and also within the community. But one of the big things that I thought was really important is for the children to understand that somebody doesn't have to come from the outside to make a change in their lives. It's completely in their hands. And B, you don't need money actually to do anything. If you're passionate about it, you can do it. So I believe that for them to understand it, I have to practice it. So we actually use very, very little funds to do anything. Everything requires thinking outside the box, so we can figure out a way to do it. Whether it's saving up a little bit from doing something and then using that money to whatever. So most of it comes out of my pocket, actually. And it's important for me because I don't want to separate. I don't feel like there's a need to separate the school from what I earn. And so I feel like that flow for me is also part of understanding, and as a result, it's awesome. Anytime we're going to do something, the kids will be like, Didi, no, that's way too much. If we do it this way, we'll save 15 rupees. So they're learning in the process. And so so funding's not really a big part of it. We had one rule: you just had to shower to come, because hygiene is often a really big issue. And if you don't have basic hygiene, I feel like learning is a much sort of advanced step, right? Basic hygiene is connected with health and just well-being, and also how you see yourself. And so I just had to take a bath, and I knew water wasn't, it was a scarce sort of commodity, so whatever that meant, like washing your hands and your face and combing your hair, that was the rule. And so they would wait to see me walking down the street to come get them, and then they'd be like, Vivi's coming, and their parents every day for like 1 year were like, oh, so what are you doing today? I'm like, I'm here to get your kids so that they can learn every day, you know? And so they would wait for me, and then they'd be like, will you give me a bath? And so what happened actually is if our class was for 2 hours, I would spend 2 hours before that getting them ready, so like giving them a bath and cleaning them up and everything. And so that was sort of the initial process, and that went on for a while. I mean, at least a year and a half. Now what's really amazing is that the kids come on their own. The families in the community know that this is happening, so they come to me and say, can we put our kids in? And so it's not perfect, and there's still a lot of challenges, but there's a lot more of the interest. And so I don't actually go out to get anybody anymore. I'll go check up on kids if they're not coming and see what's going on, but they come on their own, and a few of the older kids will take responsibility also if someone's not coming to find out what the situation is. Every day I spent with the kids, it's like when you're working with children or any community or anybody closely in any capacity, you get to really see a lot of yourself because you're working so closely. And so those people are constant sort of reflections of you, you know, and so there's a lot of opportunity for internal growth, and you realize that the deeper and deeper you go into something. And so I don't know if there was a critical moment that was like, okay, this is what I'm doing, but you just start spiraling into it. And it's a very, very nice spiral. It's not very fast and, you know, I'm out of control, but you just realize that, like, you know, every drop that takes you in deeper, like, it's just, you're closer to, like, understanding. I feel closer to understanding who I am. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was really probably one of the anchors of why this is so close to my heart. And then of course children are children, and so they are maybe the greatest teachers, I feel like. And so just spending time with them and being in their company, I feel like they really teach me what life is about on a daily basis. Part of slum life actually is sort of the uncertainty, and it's part of everyone's life, but you get to see it sort of in a more intense way when you're in communities where life is just more of a struggle. So in the beginning, it was really, really difficult. A lot of kids would come and they would go, and there was constant movement. Families would leave, kids would start working, or they would drop out. I mean, just all sorts of issues. And I connected directly with sort of what was going on within me internally. In the beginning, it was very much about, you know, running this project and doing this work and helping these kids. And so it was very action-oriented. And at some point, I realized that if it was going to be about me doing that, that sadness and that frustration and the expectations, like, they would just keep building, and that would affect what I could actually give the children. So it may not have been a dramatic shift. It was sort of a gradual realization, but that the most important thing I could offer, the most value I could offer, was by being present and by giving the very best of myself in that space and letting the children know that I'm there for them and allowing things to flow. And so I think with that, it's allowed me to understand detachment, to be able to practice it more. And so that now when a child is struggling, of course, you know, my heart's with them and we do what we can do, right? But also understanding that life has to take its course and that we can't necessarily stop certain things from happening. For parents to be able to think, okay, if I make sure my kid gets some basic education or some really solid values, that my child can break out of the cycle that we're in, is very difficult. And so, like, an example of that would be, I remember one child enrolling them in the government school, and the school timing was like at 7:30 or something in the morning. He was young, so the mom had to walk him to school. And she's like, I can either take him to school or I can fill my water supply for the day. And so, and those are very real problems, you know? And so those are like just practical issues that come up, and it's about, okay, whether I live my life or I take, you know, time out to make sure my kid's able to advance. And that perspective, it's a luxury when you're not in the struggle. Mm-hmm. And so I think always finding that balance and understanding, like helping, maybe helping families also look at things from a different perspective, and then also accepting that the water is more important than her walking him to school, even though maybe in the long run it could mean all the difference in his life, you know, or at least understanding it and not maybe judging what the right thing is to do. I think that's always a little bit of a challenge to sort of have that understanding. My oldest student right now, he is about 20 years old. His name is Rahul, and a lot of what we do at Patangyu is the kids run a lot of things, because that's sort of where that pride and the ownership and the responsibility and all that comes in. So try to get them as engaged in the process of things and leadership and decision making as possible. So he's the oldest, and he was the first one to actually finish 12th grade. And he's now doing graphic designing, which is amazing. So it's his first year. But he is an inspiration to me because he is so grounded. And at 20 years old, I mean, a 20-year-old kid, you know, he chooses to come to the school and to help teach versus doing anything else with his friends. I mean, it is his first priority. He will say no to anything, and not because anybody tells him. I tell him all the time, you are a grown-up now, you get to do whatever you want, you know, like, think through it, but it's up to you. And his first choice always is the school, and it's amazing. He will, and he's not earning, he will still find, you know, 10 rupees here or there when it's someone's birthday and make sure the kid has chocolates to give out. Or he will, if he sees somebody struggling, he'll go out of his way to help them. He'll take people to the hospital. I mean, he's in the same community, and, you know, he's not getting anything for it. And whenever I offered to, like, support him, I'm like, okay, at least take a stipend for the time. He's like, if I can't serve my own community, how can we expect anybody else to? So, I mean, just his humility and just how grounded he is, and his, like, genuine love for everyone around him is really, just really, really inspiring to me. So, yeah. When there is love, it allows everything to open up. You know, it can transform anything. It really is one of the most powerful forces out there. And so I just believe that, like, you know, there's so many children who are closed up because they have so many things that they're dealing with. Just like there's so many people in the world dealing with those things, and a little love goes a really long way in helping them sort of love themselves, and then being able to pay that love sort of forward or sort of share it around them. And it's amazing. That's it. That's all it takes really to transform anything, I think.